All right, welcome. Happy Friday to all of you. And we're going to talk about the Finger Lakes tonight. I'm Alison Miller, and I will be your wine guide for the evening. And I can even be your rent-a wine guide should you want to book a virtual tasting with friends, theme of your choice on Zoom. All right, time to put my glasses on. I'm giggling, and sometimes I look away. That's because my husband helps me. He's my sidekick. Makes me laugh. Hi, welcome, Leslie. Happy Friday. Hi, Jess Weller. It's so nice to see these names. It's been so long since we've seen each other. Happy Friday. Hi, Lisa Gilbert. Happy Friday to you. Thanks for joining. Hi, Lori Bailey. Welcome. Makes me so happy to see all of your names come up. It's starting to feel like it's been a really long time. Happy Friday, Lori. Trying to think of what the drinking game word of the night is. And one I say often enough, but not too often, as Andrew pointed out last week, so we're not into the second bottle by 10 minutes in. So it wouldn't be welcome. It would be more like, there was another one that I say a lot. So, Finger Lakes, good, I don't know. Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna pin a comment as I usually do. Welcome, join, grab a bottle, glass and a bottle, and join us. For those of you who are on time or early, if you want to grab a second glass, one of the really cool things is that I like to do sometimes when I'm trying to kind of learn about a varietal is to taste it warm. So Riesling's supposed to be served at 43 degrees, but if you let it sit, it's going to bring out some additional taste qualities, which in some wines can be awful, like a Pinot Grigio. If you have it warm, it's not so good, but a Riesling sometimes can be all right. Oh, Lisa Gilbert says, how about interesting? That is a good one. I also was thinking, good question. All right, we'll do interesting tonight because I think that's a great idea. Keith Miller, welcome next to me. Keith is waving. So I have to tell you all, I so appreciate that you each join every week and when you can and take this time with us. And hopefully it's a good distraction for you as well. And that's why I planned it to start off. But the numbers of people who watch it or at least stop and do a quick view have gone up to, like last week was 750. So it's kind of crazy. I think for the most part, there may be 20 or so of us on at a time actively commenting, and then more people who kind of watch in that I don't necessarily see during it. And so anybody who doesn't get a welcome from me because I don't necessarily see you, please feel free to message me with any questions. I might not get it during, but I will certainly answer it after. Okay. So, hi, Greer. Welcome. All right, we're just getting started, laying down the rules, welcoming everybody. All right, so and I'm sorting through, the numbers. Lisa said that's fantastic. I see Marla hasn't joined yet. She's usually on and she was messaging me, so I'm sure she'll be here in just a minute. But
1 minute, Marla.
What's on?
1 minute, Marla.
1 minute. All right, let's see what time it is. 6. Oh yeah, let's get going. Okay, so I did want to do a quick introduction. Those of you who are on, most of you know me. If you don't, you've looked me up and have found some information about me. And I'm excited to say, oh, there's Marla. Hi. And Leslie's excited to actually try different wines, which is fantastic. And that's what it's all about. So hopefully you were able to find a Riesling tonight. I did want to let you guys know that on my website, we are launching a 6-pack for Facebook Live tastings. So the Facebook Live tastings going forward, at least for the next 4 weeks, are planned out, and I will post the schedule. And the tasting pack is a box of 6, and we're going to taste together those 6 wines. 2 are like, there's a Pinot Grigio versus Pinot Gris that are in the box, and 2 amazing Italian wines in the box. So if you're interested, just go to my website, artisanwinetasting.com, and you can place the order, or you can just shoot me an email. And as always, remember, it's bring your own wine, so you don't have to use the wine that we are using that night. Hi, Christine. It's nice to see your little picture joining. And hi, Diney. I've been hoping you were going to join us. So it's nice to see you. You're welcome, Christine. And for all of you healthcare workers, which includes Diney, and frontline workers, and I have a feeling, Leslie, that you are working as well. And anybody who's working, thank you so much during these difficult times. We so appreciate you. And as I say each week, this is kind of to give everybody a little break, to think about something else for a little bit, and to feel connected in, and like we're learning something. So and enjoying and having fun. That's also important. Hi, Holly. Welcome. So let's get started. First of all, to all of you who are joining us, cheers. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. I really, really appreciate that you are dialed in and asking questions, and just even watching in your own home, wearing PJs or whatever else you're wearing. Cheers to all. Cheers. All right. So tonight we're going to learn about the Finger Lakes region, and many, many, many of you have been there. What's the big deal about the Finger Lakes? The big deal about the Finger Lakes, quite honestly, is when we're ready and able to go places. I've seen a lot of people post, hey, let's go somewhere in the U.S. Let's support local businesses, absolutely, in your town and in your area. But the Finger Lakes is actually a world-class region that is a 6-hour drive from Boston. And so you can go there and experience world-class food, top sommeliers, top chefs from around the world, and lots of even German winemakers, lots of winemakers that have moved from other areas to make fine wine. So it's 4.5 hours outside of New York City. It's 6 hours from Boston, 2 hours from Buffalo, an hour from Syracuse, 5 hours from Montreal, and 3.5 hours from Toronto. Has anybody ever traveled there? And if so, when have you been there? Go ahead and comment, post. Okay. What does that mean, a world-class wine region? What that means is that their wines consistently, when held up against European wines and wines from all over the world, win medals. And so there have been lots of head-to-head German Rieslings, because that's the major award-winning varietal in the Finger Lakes. There have been a lot of Rieslings tasted, Finger Lakes versus others around the world, but particularly Germany, because that is the pinnacle of they make the best Rieslings in the world. And Finger Lakes wines are starting to rival the Germans. So cheers to that as well. Yep, Scott was there in 2000, and I know that quite a few of you went with me. We did a wine tour a few years ago, and a few of you went. The funny thing that is, I went there when my brother was first married to my sister-in-law, because she's from Waterloo, which is at the northern tip of Seneca Lake in the Finger Lakes. And we thought we were in the middle of nowhere. My aunt is from Syracuse, so we'd been to the area, but we just weren't sure that there was a lot going on. And it was not super busy. But in the last 10 years, it has just taken off. It's crazy. Jess Weller's been to a vineyard in Germany to taste Riesling, and it would be interesting to hear, Jess, what you think about a New York Riesling versus a German Riesling. And Leslie, you had a group that went to a winery. Hi, Terry Lucas, welcome. Went to a winery in the Finger Lakes, Leslie? Is that what you mean by that? Yeah. So I went to a travel conference there last year, and we stayed right by the Corning Museum of Glass, which is unbelievably gorgeous. And I want to bring my kids back and my husband because it looked beautiful. And then from there's so much to do in that area. But the reason that we're picking it out tonight is because it's known for Riesling, the area. And as I said, world-class Riesling. And what's so special about Riesling? Riesling is a niche drink. It's a niche wine varietal. And if you get a good Riesling, you'll never go back. So a lot of people used to say, oh, Riesling, it's so sweet. Isn't Riesling sweet? It's a dessert wine. And yes, it can be sweet, but it also can be very, very dry. Okay. And when it's dry, it's a beautiful expression of fruit and of fruit, and also it has a lot of acid, so it's an excellent food wine. Fantastic. In fact, if you said to me, I'm having Asian food tonight, maybe a spicy Thai, Riesling is perfect with it. It acts like the spice with the food. Okay, so the region's also known for Chardonnay. It's cold climate, as you know, and so Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Franc, Gewürztraminer, and excellent sparkling wines. I will say to you, in our experience, the wines that really stood out, I bought a couple of red blends, and a few years later I thought, I'm not sure I really want to, I'm not sure what kind of quality. I remembered the red, 'cause it's been 2 or 3 years. Hi, Brenta, welcome. And it's been a number of years since I've been. And so when I went to open one of the reds, I thought, oh, I remember it was acidic and maybe not so not such a big mouthfeel to it, kind of thin. But the red blend that I opened a couple weeks ago was phenomenal. It was really, really good. And so Leslie stopped there on her motorcycle group stopped there when she went through. And there are all these festivals. They have big, huge campgrounds that get filled. They'll do like a big triathlon and then do wine tastings. It's a really cool area. And Lisa Gilbert says somehow she associates it with Thanksgiving dinner. Lisa, that's a very interesting comment. Cheers. Every time our drinking game of the evening is every time I say interesting, we take a sip.
Thought it was Thanksgiving.
It is not Thanksgiving. And so the reason that you associate Thanksgiving dinner with it is because turkey and gravy can be very, very good with Riesling. And the spices in the Riesling really accentuate the meal. So yes, great call, Lisa. Very interesting comment. Okay, for those of you just joining us for the first time, we've started in the last couple of weeks doing a drinking game. And so the word of the day is interesting. Every time I say interesting, you can take a sip of your wine. And of course, sip it whenever you want. I just said it twice, Keith said. All right. So tell us what you're drinking tonight. Go ahead and comment in and tell us what you're drinking. The topic is Finger Lakes. If you joined us with a Finger Lakes wine, let us know. And if you did not, tell us what else you're drinking. Then it helps me kind of focus in what we'll talk about tonight and how we will taste together. All right. So as you're doing that, we're going to focus tonight on dry Riesling. And we'll definitely talk about Cabernet Franc if people have them. But let's lift your glass and we'll do a little wine tasting 101. Again, if you have anything else in your glass, taste along with us, and we'll pull out your taste qualities if you want to share with us what you're drinking. Okay? So wine 101. We serve this at 43 degrees Riesling. And a fun thing to do, as I said at the beginning, is to have a second glass where you pour a little bit and taste it at the end warm to see the difference, to see how it tastes. All right. Hi, Tracy. Pine Ridge Cab Franc. Very nice. Pine Ridge is California, I believe. Is that correct? And Greer has a Chemeter 2015 Riesling. Love Chemeter. Fantastic. That's a nice, dry Riesling, crisp, and I'm sure Greer will tell us a little bit about it as she drinks it. Marla has a Chateau Saint Michel Riesling from the Columbia Valley. Washington is also making some beautiful Rieslings, and Chateau Saint Michel is actually using, I think they're still using original rootstock, so European rootstock. You don't see that often. So it's pretty interesting. And then Leslie's drinking Salmon Run Riesling from Frank Winery in Hammondsport. I've had that Salmon Run Riesling before too. Very nice. And Greer's is Finger Lakes, and Tracy's is Napa. Okay, interesting. And so Napa is making good Rieslings. The colder the area, the better the Riesling. All right, neat. So what I suggest is taking your bottle and putting it into the fridge to keep it cool. So I'm drinking tonight a Ravines dry Riesling from 2015 from my last trip there. I like Ravines so much. The husband and wife, I believe he's from Germany. They're from Germany. They had these little mini donkeys that were absolutely adorable. And so I joined their club. They just had some outstanding wines. A lot of the places did. And so that's what I'm drinking tonight. These are actually the last of my New York Finger Lake Riesling. So I'm going to have to get some more. All right. Anne has, oh, hi, Anne. Skyquake Riesling. Anne, tell us where that's from. And then Jess said we couldn't get a Riesling, so she's hanging out in Bordeaux, but remembering the Riesling she's had in the past. Very good, Jess, and enjoy that Bordeaux. And I'm assuming it's a red. And Lisa, no Riesling there, so she's drinking Garnacha. Good, and we won't talk about it, Lisa, but you can certainly share with us. All right, just to stay on topic. Interesting. Cheers. All right, so, oh, the one thing I always want to call out when we're drinking white wine is my friends who love the ice cubes. So I always keep these plastic ice cubes for them. Because, what's that?
Andrew.
Oh, Andrew joined. Hi, Andrew. Welcome. Okay. Oh, and Anne's is from the Finger Lakes too, and I hadn't heard of that one. Interesting. Welcome, Andrew. We're drinking Riesling. And I'm just talking about ice cubes, and the only reason that you don't necessarily want to put ice cubes into your wine is that now that you're tasting wine instead of just drinking wine, it releases water as it melts, so the wine gets watered down. You can't taste it as much. Those of you who don't care, I don't care either. But when you come to my house, I will give you a plastic ice cube so that it doesn't release water into your wine without judgment.
And another guy said whiskey rocks.
Whiskey rocks, yeah, you can. And the only thing with using whiskey rocks as, oh, I think it was Scott who said that.
No, it was on that.
Oh, okay. The only thing with the whiskey rocks is you don't want to get wet stone. You want to make sure that they don't add any wet stone taste from it. All right. Okay. So wine 101, we're going to see, swirl, smell, and sip. Many of you have already been sipping as per our drinking game tonight. Andrew, the word of the evening is interesting. Cheers. Oh, I forgot to mention wine glasses. For white wine, you use a tall, thin one. This is a universal wine glass, these tulips. So you can use these for white or red. This one's a little thinner, so I would stick with the white with this. This one, you could do white or red. All right. So let's see. So we're going to take a look at the color. What color do you have? Oh, Diney has Carl Sittman Riesling. Diney, where's Carl Sittman from? Tell us where that's from. All right, what colors are we seeing? We're holding it up to something white. Butter. Keith describes the color as butter-like. Yep. Okay. Let's see what other colors. Any other? So we're going to get anywhere from a straw yellow, it can be super light, to a golden yellow. It can get really, really deep. Now we're talking about dry Riesling, but there are lots of sweet Rieslings, and those may have much deeper colors. Okay, so that's the color, and we see there's no fault. All right, so look in yours, you look to see if there's any fault. If there's no fault, great. If there is fault, there really shouldn't be in Riesling. It's not oaked. They don't, there shouldn't be a lot floating around. There shouldn't be anything floating around in there. It should be fine. Last week, we talked about healthy wines and how they fine out and filter out. And absolutely, a Riesling should stand for its fruit and its acid and minerality. So there should not be oak on it. Okay, next we're going to swirl. Okay, Leslie's is pale yellow and Marla's is light yellow. Yep, so they're probably a bit similar in color. And that's what mine is too, that pale yellow. Okay, so we're going to swirl it. Why do we swirl it? So that it oxygenates and it lifts up the aromas. Now, before I say anything, go ahead and write in what you're smelling. And I want to tell you, Riesling is a highly aromatic wine. So what that means is that it should have a lot of aromas, a lot of scents coming up. And they can really range depending on where your Riesling is from. All right, tell us what you smell. Diney's is from Germany. Very nice. All right, I did dig out, I found this gem in my wine fridge. I paid $6 for it. I wonder if it was from Trader Joe's. A K. Weschler, and it's a Trocken Riesling from Germany. And so that means it's a dry Riesling. So the alcohol percentage is probably, oh, this one's high, 12.5%, high for a Riesling. All right, Marla gets grasses and peach. Hi, Angela, join us. We're just focusing on the aroma right now, smelling our wine. Okay, grass, peaches, water. Yep, okay, and that once you hit that water and it starts to smell like alcohol, you might need to take a break on smelling. Sometimes you can get overwhelmed on the smells, all right? So Lori Bailey gets peaches and apricots, yes. So we would call that stone fruit. Okay? If you swirl and you smell nothing, if you don't swirl and you smell nothing, and you usually can smell things, smell again. Because again, it's a highly alcoholic wine. It's made to have a lot of smells in it. Greer has peaches and apricot. Yes, absolutely. And so all of you picked out those stone fruits, and those are definitely found in Riesling. Peaches, apricot, we call those stone fruits because of the pits inside. And so in Riesling in general, I typically, oftentimes if it's super dry, I get pear or Honeycrisp apple. So see if you can pick those smell qualities out. Pear and green apple. Okay. The other thing you might be able to smell in that, okay, and the way to do that, by the way, yeah, peaches. The way to do that, to find this pear and green apple, is you can look at my cards, my wine cards, if you have them, and say, well, okay, what does this look like? Here's one, dried apricot. Okay. What would that smell like? Okay, now do I smell that in my wine? All right, so I would say pears, Honeycrisp apples, and then you're also going to pick up, and this might be what Marla meant when she said water, it might be that minerality. And Diney, and I'm trying to think of who else, I think, was it Anne? No, Anne had the local. Anybody else who has the German wines, see if you can pick up also, yeah, apples and peach, and then see if you can also pick up like a wet stone smell. And German wines are characteristic, the German Rieslings are characteristic of wet stones. All right, Leslie's getting apple now. And then once you pick out, okay, I got apple. Is it green apple or is it red apple? See if you can figure that out.
Interesting question.
Thank you, Keith. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Cheers, honey. All right, so stone fruit, nectarine, apricot, then that minerality. What does minerality taste like? Hi, Nancy, welcome. That minerality tastes on your tongue almost like if you were to lick, well, you can feel it. You can feel it in your mouth, the acidity. And Anne gets the pear and minerality too. And that minerality almost tastes like a wet stone. Like if you took a wet stone, I don't know if you did, apparently I did when I was a child, picked up a wet stone and picked up a wet stone and licked it. I don't remember ever doing it, but I can look at a wet stone and I know what it tastes like. And I can taste, I can taste that in my wine. I can. All right. So Leslie gets green, something green. What would that green thing be? Let's see, green. It can be herbaceous, Leslie, green, or green could be, green apple. Yes, Leslie, green apple. Sorry about that. And then, Liz just joined. Cheers, Liz. I greeted Angela. And keep in mind, the drinking word of the night is interesting. Cheers, everybody.
Liz,
we're just happy you're here. Thank you. And so the minerality, and then there's one more piece, and we did this aroma and we kind of blended in the taste qualities. All right. So going back to the aroma, you're going to pick up those fruits, definitely, and then maybe that stone fruit, and then maybe you may pick up an extra special smell, which would be gasoline or petrol. And that is characteristic of Rieslings. All right. So see if you can pick that up. And then when you taste it, go ahead and tell us what you're tasting. And remember, we do a double taste just so we make sure our taste buds are not overwhelmed. Liz, thank you very much for asking what you missed. Hi, Melissa. Welcome. Here's what you guys missed, a quick catch up. Everybody's tasting their wine, trying to figure out what did they taste. We did smell quality. And one thing we missed from smell quality was floral. And we're tasting the Riesling. That's what we're tasting now. I also had an exciting announcement at the beginning. No problem. We're just happy you're here, Melissa. Never an apology for being late. I'm very much a late person often, so we all have a lot going on right now, and it's just nice to see you. Hi, Christopher. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And so one of the things I did announce is that on my website, artisanwinetasting.com, I'm releasing a Facebook Live tasting pack, and that will go with the next 4 themes. So as always, you're welcome to bring your own wine and join in with us. This is really for all of us while we are social distancing, a chance to connect with each other and learn a little bit, and for me to practice my skills. But if you want to taste the same things that I'm tasting and maybe some of the others, on artisanwinetasting.com, you can purchase a Facebook Live tasting pack, and I'll put the schedule up later on. Okay, of the next few weeks. All right, so Riesling tends to have a little bit more, the sweeter, the less dry it is, the more residual sugar, and it tends to have lower alcohol, okay? So those of you who are tasting are picking up all different qualities. We only shared a few, and then I noted some. So when you taste wines from the Finger Lakes, they range anywhere from very, very mineral and citrus-driven dry wines to peach, juicy peach, appley sweet, off-dry and semi-dry. I have to say, and Greer keeps saying so much peach, and she's right. And so when you taste it with a mild cheese, it's going to cut out some of that peach. And you want it to have a little bit more acid. Now, Greer's is, I believe, a 2016, so it's aged a little bit in the bottle. Rieslings can age for 10, 20 years, high quality Rieslings. This one, I'm going to say, they said it was dry, but it is a little off sweet. So I would call it an off dry, which means that if dry is here and sweet is here, like ice wine sweet, it's about here. Okay. So when people say is Riesling, oftentimes they'll say Riesling is too sweet. It's not. If you get something very dry, it's spicy, and I'll tell you how to purchase that at the end. So how do German Rieslings compare with Finger Lakes? As I said at the beginning, all the taste tests, or many taste tests, show that Rieslings from Germany are flinty and fruity. So they have more of that flint and that wet stone. Where in the Finger Lakes, it's more they're more on the fruity side. They're floral, and the Germans has more minerality to it. Welcome, Sally. Glad to have you. This week did go by really fast. So Anne has a minimal fruit nose, but more minerality. Lots of peach. It could be your nose, but I wouldn't be surprised. I like a pear tasting Riesling. But a lot of us are coming up with that stone fruit peach. Greer's has a meter, and hers says medium sweet. Yeah. And Marla says the apricot too. The spicier the food or olives, the peachier it gets. Interesting. I actually think I'm going to open. I wasn't going to open this one. I'm going to go ahead and open my German one. My $6 German one that I don't remember where I got it from. Oh, and it looks like it's effervescent. You can see the bubbles. So that's interesting. Let's see how this goes. That's quite good. I may like it a little better than my Finger Lakes one. And that's not to say I love Finger Lakes Rieslings. Just the one that I have is a little bit sweeter. It's nice. What do you think, Keith? Yeah, you definitely get the minerality and the wet stone at the end. Okay. Who tasted Flint? As Chris is asking, I think I might have tasted Flint when I was younger. Leslie says the scale on the label shows that hers is one notch closer dry, sweet. Okay, interesting. Hi, Nicole, welcome. And cheers to everybody. Interesting. Lisa asks, is effervescent common in Riesling? It's not, Lisa. That's why I was a little bit surprised. So, and Sally, that's totally fine that you can't grab a Riesling. Grab whatever you have and join us, even if it's a glass of water. Okay. All right. So that's pretty interesting. The difference in the two, I would have to say that the drier German, the Trocken, is more my style as well. Okay. So, the less ripe, and this is interesting too, the less ripe that they pick, the grapes, the more lime it tastes. And if you look on a scale, it would go from less ripe would be lime, more ripe would be Meyer lemon, then pineapple, then apricot. So what I'm hearing from most of you is likely that your grapes were picked in a very ripe time rather than a less ripe time. Yes, Keith?
3 cents ago you said interesting.
Oh, Keith said I said interesting. Cheers. And Marla, cheers is to $6 wine. Yes, I would recommend it. And Melissa, Nicole, thanks for checking in, and join us whenever you can. And these are recorded as well, so you can always take a look. And Melissa says she's always liked Rieslings from Portugal and Germany. So I've never had a Portuguese Riesling. They're rare. You won't find them often. So that's interesting. And maybe that wasn't the right word to choose, Lisa Gilbert. But yes, the German wines are fantastic. So let's talk about, so we talked about the difference between the two. Also, there are, in the different regions, you'll have different tastes. Like Marla has the Chateau Saint Michel. That's going to be fruitier. Where in Australia, they actually have overtones of lavender. So some people who have my card game had said, well, where did you get Flint? Where did you get Wet Stone? And where did you get Petrol? Those are all characteristics of Riesling. Wet stones. Think of a sidewalk after it rains. Okay, so you can smell it and maybe not taste it right now. Let's hope not. All right. All right. So the ravines that I had a white flower, white peach, a little bit of lime, pear, quince, their notes say, and distinct minerality. And I would say it aged a little bit, lost the acid, and lost some of the minerality. So it should be lively. I wish I had drank this a little bit earlier. It's a 2015. It was aged on lees. Lees, as we talked about, is the yeast that sinks to the bottom, and as you stir it, it makes it richer and more full-bodied. And that could be where some of my perceived sweetness comes from stirring of the lees. But he was trying to pull out, the winemaker was trying to pull out the floral and mineral elements of this Riesling. And as I mentioned, this one from Ravines in the Finger Lakes, he is from Germany. Okay, so all right. So now, why the Finger Lakes? The Finger Lakes wine regions we talked about, world class, close to here. But why are they turning out such stellar Rieslings? Why are they getting known throughout the world? Why not Long Island? Long Island has been making wine for a long time. In fact, in the 1640, the Dutch started growing grapes for wine on the island of Manhattan. And so through the years, it moved up into the Finger Lakes. And the reason is because the Finger Lakes is actually prime area for grape growing. The area was a great warm sea. So after the sea was gone, it left limestone in the soil, shale, salt. The glaciers carried soil. The eroding hillsides created valleys, and then there's shallow topsoil on top of the shale sheets. That's all prime for grape growing. Why is that? Because for high quality grapes, you need fast draining soil that's low in nutrients. You want it to struggle. You want the grapevines to struggle. Hi, Jackie. Welcome. Grab a glass. So you want the grapevines to struggle, so they'll dig deeper down into that limestone and that old seabed. It says, yes, the Dutch they are solid people and forward thinking, right? And then the steep slopes, and you'll see like there are all these different Finger Lakes, and one of the main ones is Seneca. And when we visited there, you could see that there were hillsides, and when they have melt or heavy rain, the water just drains right down the hillsides, right into the lake. Thanks, Andrew, for that. The Dutch never pick up a bill. So that's kind of cool that they have that naturally, that steep slope, that and it also drains cold air down the valley to the valley bottom. So the lakes offer a storm of warm water, so the water gets very warm in the summer, and it radiates that warmth into the autumn and winter. So it keeps the growing season longer, and it moderates these extreme effects of the region. And it also allows it to be cooler in the summer. So it moderates the extreme effects of summer weather. So the moral of the story is it's a moderate weather area, even though the whole area is extreme. That area in the Finger Lakes is not extreme because of the lakes and the weather that they're creating. And also the region sits at roughly 43 degrees north latitude, which puts it slightly south of Bordeaux and of Oregon's Willamette Valley, and well south of Europe's traditional Riesling producing areas. So it has a growing environment slightly warmer than the French Loire Valley or the California Central Coast. But because it has those harsh winter temperatures, because it has the harsh winter temperatures, it helps with the growth of the grapes. So Greer acknowledges Lisa's true but funny. Liz is doing a solid I think that's to the Dutch. Greer says they do make great windmills, and Christopher says, do not tell the Bachelor. Don't Tell the Bachelor. All right. So that's the Finger Lakes. All right. So as I said, great growing area, great soil right near us. So all of these winemakers from like top sommeliers and chefs, and one winemaker we talked to from Germany fled in the middle of the night. His family was going to make him work his farm in Germany, and he wanted to make wine in the United States. So he moved here. He made amazing wine for Anthony Road, which is making top class Rieslings, and then he started his own winery, which is what Greer's drinking, the Kemeter. Okay. All right. Now, no bashing the Dutch. I think Keith might be part Dutch. No, not part Dutch. All right. Anyway, German. So the German Riesling, what's the difference? The best Rieslings in Germany grow along the Mosel River in Germany on steep south-facing hills. Their soil, slate, shale, and loam. Very similar. South facing. Thank you. Keith asked why south facing, because Germany is cold. A lot of it is cold. And so they actually grow in the southern quadrant. I've never been to Germany. Tracy, you could chime in on this one. But because of the cold climate, you want them to be south facing because they get more sun. It will make it warmer. Okay. So, interesting. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. So the wine producing appellations, they sit along the Rhine or Mosel rivers, which moderate the climate as well and keep the daily temperatures in check. Okay, so any of you who've tried to buy German wine before, it's complicated. Okay, and so how do you know what to buy? So if it says Tafelwine wine or Landwein, that's table wine in Germany, and it never makes it out of the country, or very, very rarely. You're not going to see that. You don't have to worry about it. Thank you, Leslie. Cheers to you.
Why not?
Why doesn't it make it out of the country often? Because it's a small production of it, and it's cheap, and so they drink it. Keith asked why it doesn't make it out of the country. A lot of times table wine doesn't make it out of the country. Italian table wine is unbelievable. It just never makes it here because the locals buy it. They know the quality and they buy it. All right. So quality wine is Qualitätswein. Those of you who are German or speak German, I'm sure you're cringing with my accent or my pronunciation, but that's a step up from table wine. Grapes are harvested at low ripeness, and then they add sugar to increase alcohol. If you want the really, I want you to hear that. It's called chaptalization. They harvest the grapes before they're fully ripe, and then they add sugar to create so that the yeast can eat it, so that there's enough alcohol in it. To me, that sounds maybe not. Keith said it sounds fishy. Very interesting. Cheers. Apparently, Andrew's wearing wooden shoes. All right, but the quality wine in Germany is called Qualitätswein. Quality wine with specific attributes. That's what it means. And those are the top tier wines. They're not allowed to harvest ripe and then add sugar. And those are categorized by dry to sweet. So I'm not going to go into all the dry and sweet categorizations because there's a huge list. If you have any questions, I know them all and have them all. So you can certainly ask. But if you want a good dry German Riesling, look for Trocken and Qualitätswein. All right. So back to why the Finger Lakes. So as we said, ideal soil and temperature, water source, innovators of wine. The other thing about the Finger Lakes is that, and I'm sure in Germany they have equal educational institutions, but maybe not to this level. In the Finger Lakes, Cornell has an extensive wine program. And they do a lot of study of rootstock and hybridization and growing sustainable products and figuring out how American rootstock and American, the original wines or grapes from America, Concord grapes, but really the derivatives of such, how we can grow those and make those into fine wines. So Chris says has a semi-sweet Riesling, rather sweet from the Finger Lakes. Yes, so semi-sweet is definitely going to be sweet. And the sweeter they get, the more you need to balance it with food. And then there's ice wine, which you could have pretty much as dessert. But there are some sweet wines that you can refrigerate and have as dessert, and those are wonderful
Chris
too.
Kubek?
Yeah, and Chris, where's from? Hi, Judy. Welcome. Cheers. And And everybody's greeting everybody. Yes, I'm all thankful. I'm very thankful that you're all here tonight as we talk about Finger Lakes. So feel free to jump in and ask any questions that you have as we go forward. And as you can tell, I'll get distracted and I answer them and I'll jump right back to where I was. So feel free to ask any questions. All right, so we were talking about the innovators of wine at Cornell. And so here's the story with American wines. You'll hear about phylloxera, and this is why the Finger Lakes is also so innovative. So phylloxera is they're little pests that live in the soil, and they eat rootstock. Well, they're from American rootstock. So all of the grapes that used to be planted in the U.S. Up through the 1800s, they were always American rootstock, and we couldn't grow European rootstock. They kept for 200 years, from 1600 to 1800, Europeans would bring over European rootstock and they'd plant it in America and they would die. And they couldn't figure out why. So they took some American rootstock and they brought it to France to try to figure out why. And they planted it. And what happened is they brought over these little bugs that lived in the soil that didn't bother our American vines. And it wiped out the whole European crop. Okay, huge in the wine world. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for a second. Leslie had an Italian woman. Did something homemade. I'm not really sure what. All right, Leslie, you need to clarify. Hi, Judy Setti. Welcome. Oh, that's right. Judy helped me when I was first going to the Finger Lakes. She gave me a whole bunch of tips. So thank you, Judy. Audrey, there are good question. So there are dry Rieslings and there are sweet Rieslings. The dry Rieslings are the ones we're focusing on tonight. So there's all across the board, but the dry Rieslings are more of a fine wine. And so as a business, I focus on fine wine. So I focus on the dry, the off sweet, the semi-sweet, I wouldn't really bring into a tasting necessarily. I would do a dessert wine, a very, very sweet wine. Okay, good question. Interesting. All right, and so we're back to the Europeans. Cheers, everybody. We're back to all the Europeans. All their fine wine vines had died, and so what happened is they realized that the American rootstock was resistant. So they tried a whole bunch of things. In 1860, that's when it happened, and within 10 years, most of the vineyards in Europe were wiped out. And so they started dousing the soil with chemicals. They tried to do some hybrid plantings that did okay. And then they took the American vines and they planted those in the ground. And then they grafted on the European vines on top of it. And that worked. And that's most of what we have today is the American rootstock and then the European on top of it.
America saved the European wine industry.
America first we ruined the European wine industry, and then we saved it. Yes, they don't like to.
And then World War II and World War I.
And so Leslie says she owned a restaurant, shut it down to the public to feed our motorcycle group. That's wonderful, and she served them homemade wine that was out of this world. And that's true to form, right? In wine regions, they're farmers at heart, and they go with the philosophy that a rising boat rises all ships, that kind of. So they're all in it together.
A rising tide floats.
Thank you. A rising tide floats all ships. Interesting. Cheers. And so anyway, and so you go through. So now, going back to Cornell, and the soil and the chemicals is disgusting. And so you go back through, cycling back to Cornell. Cornell does a lot of the experiments with grafting rootstock. And there's also a few wineries in the region. They're all trying to innovate. And when we visited Herman Wiemer, which is a fantastic winery there, they have a whole, they grow baby vines and rootstock. And they're trying to bring back some of the old American varietals to see if they can make them more elegant. So not a lot of people have really experimented on American varietals, such as the Concord grape, right? So Manischewitz is made with the Concord grape, grape juice is made with the Concord grape, but there are varietals of that they haven't necessarily been able to make very elegant. And that's what places like New Hampshire are trying to do. They're buying from the Finger Lakes region, the rootstock, and trying to grow some of those local grapes and make them more elegant. So the European vines are the ones who have made the common, all the wines you can think of, Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, all of those. Our baby vines, cute they are, Lisa, but really the coolest vines are old vines, 50 to 100 years old. They're huge and thick, and people make tables out of them and wall hangings. They're absolutely gorgeous and so much history. I imagine that a baby vine does probably look like Groot. I'm imagining Groot. Good. All right. So one of the things about the European rootstock is that it's very delicate. It needs specific growing regions. And so when people say, well, you're talking about the Finger Lakes, they're making interesting and world-class wines, but what about Long Island? What about Missouri? What about Texas? What about New Mexico? So there are Kansas, Virginia. Virginia is making fantastic wines. Pennsylvania, Keith. Pennsylvania. So we're finding now wines all over the United States that are learning how to make these wines and grow them. The key is the vines. The longer the rootstock, the further it can grow down. The more different dimensions of soil it's pulling up through it, and the more interesting flavors and tastes you're going to get. And so, somewhere like New Hampshire, where we live, it's all granite, so those vines can't grow down very far. Okay, so just a big lesson. That was a big lesson in growing. So food pairings. What do you guys want to pair these with? We talked a little bit. What do you want to pair your wine with? Try it again. How do we know? Yay, Virginia. West Virginia too. All right, what are we going to pair with it? So Leslie said, just smelled the glass that I poured at the beginning. That's warmer. It's more earthy. That is so interesting. Cheers, Jess Weller. Cheers. And cheers to Leslie. Definitely as they get warmer, yes, picking up more earth. Mine's bringing out more minerality as well. And it's starting to taste like water, as Marla had said before. That's that stone kind of water piece. It's pretty interesting. So what are you going to pair with this? I don't see any pairings yet. If you guys have anything in your... Pretty interesting. Cheers, drink. Thank you, Keith. Keith is not missing a cheers moment. Jess caught it too.
Long week.
So Keith, can we have these that cheese over there? So I want you to see if you have any snacks. You should always have them with you when you're trying wine, so you can see what it goes with. Yep. So we have some spicy chicken wings. We have some mild, what is this called? Monterey Jack cheese and some cheddar. So go ahead and see if you have anything Colby Jack. So if you have anything that you can try. So usually the stinky cheeses will not be good with Riesling. They'll cut through the acid, but the acid is the backbone of the Riesling. So you're going to get just a lot of fruit. All right. So we're going to try this.
Chipotle.
Yeah, it's all right. Not great. Audrey has Chipotle. Nice. Diney says hello. And Melissa asked, what would pair with a sweet one? Okay, so that's a great question. Let me circle back to that, Melissa. I'm going to pin that. Lori Bailey, I think I would pair this with Asian food. Yes, or some spicy pasta. Yeah, it's not great with steak. Steak will overpower it, and the fat from the steak and the oils will coat your palate, so you're not going to get a lot of taste. It actually might end up tasting more like that petrol or that alcohol. But something spicy, that absolutely. Asian food. We had, what are these called?
Thai sweet and sour.
Thai sweet and sour chicken wings that with spice, and those the Riesling cut right through that. That was a really nice pairing. The mild cheese was pretty good with it as well. All right. So food pairings, the high acidity in German ones, coupled with their clean, pure flavors and the absence of oak, makes it very exciting and versatile. All right. So you can go with duck, pork, bacon, chicken, shrimp, crab, spices, and herbs. Herbs that you can put on things that you're eating. Greer says Mexican. Could be Mexican, just not the cheesy Mexican. Absolutely. So some good herbs with it would be highly spiced and aromatic herbs like cayenne pepper, ginger, cloves, cinnamon, allspice, soy sauce, teriyaki sauce. Cheese, definitely delicately flavored, usually cow milk, not sheep or goat, because those tend to be creamier. Marla says cheddar, lemon pepper chicken, and green beans made it more sweet. And pepper jack cheese and olives made it sweeter. That's interesting. Vegetables would be roasted vegetables, vegetables that have natural sweetness in them, like coconut, red onion, bell pepper, eggplant, squash, and carrots. What would you pair the semi-sweet Riesling? That's such a good question, Chris. I have to think about that. I think I would do a light meat like a duck and a light sauce with maybe a little bit of pepper, maybe a little bit of ginger and clove.
What about Hassan pepper?
But you don't want it to be too creamy, and definitely Hassan pepper. Keith says Hassan pepper. Actually, Hassan pepper, yes. Bunny rabbits, could. Leslie said she had spicy biscuits and gravy for dinner right before we started. So yeah, you could have opened it earlier. That may have gone well. I think the biscuits might have been too heavy, and it depends how thin the gravy was. But yeah, that would have been interesting to see how it went. And as you guys can tell, there are so many.
Could you make the gravy with a little bit of the wine?
You could put a little bit of wine in the gravy, Keith. That's a great point. And when you add wine, and I've learned this from Greer, when you add wine into sauces that you're cooking and then have that same wine with it, it complements it. It makes it go together even better.
That's one of your theories.
So that's a great idea. Lisa Gilbert says she's so hungry now. Yes. And so as you can see, there's general rules to food pairing. And so in general, I can tell you if you're having a semi-sweet, what to try with. There's such a range in the Rieslings. Part of that is good to try different things to see how they go. You don't have duck candy. We're social distancing right now. Try chicken with, I still wouldn't do a cream sauce. I would do a little bit of a sweet sauce. And then on to dessert. Okay, Marla had apple pie a la mode, and that's tempering the sweetness. That's interesting. So the cream from the a la mode is tempering the sweetness. So back to Melissa, she asked, what would you pair with a sweet wine? So I would either have sweet wine like ice wine. They take Riesling or Vidal grapes. They leave them on the vines late into the season until they freeze. And then they take them down and they gently press them. So as you can imagine, they're very expensive. They start at $25, and Enniskillen makes amazing, amazing ice wine. And Germany makes incredible ice wine too, with an E-I-S, vine. And I've had it on its own, chilled, of course. I have had different ice wines with white, like vanilla ice cream, or with cheesecake. Ice, cheesecake, it tends to be a little bit too sweet, but something vanilla bean, or even creme brulee, it could be good. If it's super, super sweet, the two together can be too sweet. But if it's just sweet enough, and with that light dessert, it's decadent. It's incredible. Okay. All right. Great questions. Let's just time. Very interesting. Cheers. All right. So how do you buy dry Riesling? Okay, I think I said it already. German Riesling, look for Trocken. Washington State would say dry. Most New York Rieslings, if you look on the back, there's that range that Greer was talking about, the little chart from dry all the way over. Anne says Canada makes excellent ice wine. Yes. Yeah, we went to Niagara and we went to Enniskillen and Peller, and they all make really, really good ice wine. Canada is great for that. All right. So the other wines that we talked about that are made. So when we went to the Finger Lakes, one of the things that I know a lot of my friends really really like is red wine. And so as I said before, they did have Cabernet Franc, and here's one actually. And so their Cabernet Franc, what I found in the Finger Lakes, they're getting better and better, and they're more kind of on the bell pepper side than they are on the fruit earth side. And so if you like that style of Cabernet Franc, then you would like that kind of red. They did have some beautiful blends there. Their Chardonnays, some of them are starting to really win awards, as in Canada, they're starting to win awards for their Chardonnay as well. Okay. So are there any other questions that I did not answer this evening? We have 5 minutes left, so if you have any questions, let me know. But in the meantime, those of you who have yes, Judy, I love ravines. In fact, if you're planning a trip to the Finger Lakes, you're welcome to reach out, and I'll set you up with Judy. Just kidding. I have a blog on my vinotripping.com all about the Finger Lakes, but I certainly love to give any recommendations. Ravines is fantastic. Kemener is one of my favorite. Kemener, when we brought a group there, the winemaker's name is Johannes. He's the one from Germany who ran to the United States and started as the Anthony Road winemaker and made such beautiful wines, and then bought property across the street. And he only allows small groups, and so if you book ahead, he takes about 6 people and he does a really intimate wine tasting. I'd actually like to get him to do maybe a Facebook Live with us. It would be really fun. But he's fantastic. And everybody left his site saying, wow, I didn't realize what a range of Rieslings could produce and how delicate and floral they can be and long lasting on the palate. Those are all engines of really, really good wines. Okay. So Marla says the Chateau Saint Michel Riesling on the label says between medium to dry, medium sweet. Seems to be very versatile and impressionable with the foods we had, and we could drink it from apps to dinner to dessert. Even though I would prefer dry Riesling, it was nice. Marla, 5 stars. So interesting. I want to take that and post that on the Vino. That was fantastic. Interesting. Cheers to all of you. So Ravines, Kemener, FLX Winery, it was father and son. The son went and became a world-renowned master sommelier. He teaches all over the world. And in fact, when you visit, he and his wife started this restaurant in Geneva. And, I didn't cover the area. We talked about Finger Lakes, but it's made up of 11 huge lakes, and 7 of them are glacier formed, and they're in the shape of fingers. And the biggest one is Seneca, and that's where we found a lot of the best wineries, Seneca Lake and Keuka Lake. The original founders in the area with Dr. Franck and Constantine Franck, and he makes stunning wines as well, and he's on Keuka. And then Ravines is on Lake Keuka and Seneca. There's a French winery. There are just so many that are making fantastic wine. And cheers to everybody. You're out of your
shout out to
Rieslings.
Lake Honeoye and the Bennetts.
And Keith wants to make a shout out to Lake Honeoye. I didn't know how to pronounce that. But there are 3 different wine trails in the area. And as I said, there's so much for the family to do.
The Wizard of Clay.
I like to stay in Geneva because that's where FLX Winery is, and the Ramada is there, which is really beautiful. And in Geneva, this sommelier, his name is Christopher Bates, and he and his wife created FLX Table, where he would cook from behind the counter, and he's right there, and he'd sit like 15 people at one long farm to table. He had all his herbs growing on the walls, and he has a side room where his sommelier is pouring anything you can imagine. I mean, just amazing wines with the Corbin out of his library. Just incredible. And so what he's done is he's built a couple different restaurants, and he's created this street of all gourmet food and excellent wine, and opened up a few different stores. And he brought, he has a friend who's a French baker, and she opened up a store on that street. And so that's all Geneva, which is North Seneca. And then there's Pagnan, that's at the bottom of Seneca. And next to there is the Banana Belt area. And that's where the top growers are. And so there's lots of different ways to tour the Finger Lakes. And again, I love it. And if you ever want to talk about it, or you need any help planning a trip, I would love to talk with you. We have a great spot we like to end our tours on, where they're open a little bit later than the wineries, and you go out on their deck and just overlook Seneca Lake, and it's just, the views are outstanding, and the wine consultants are fantastic. So, oh, hi, welcome. You're just finishing up, but it's nice to see you. And so that's about it on Rieslings. I didn't cover Cabernet Franc. It looks like not many people had them. And Jess, I think we should go. Once social distancing is over, definitely a possibility. And I will help anybody who wants to plan a trip. All right. Thank you all again. I know this is a valuable time for you, and hopefully you were able to take an hour and have a break and think about something that brought you pleasure and you learned a little bit. And please feel free to take a look at my website, artisanwinetasting.com. You'll see the tasting pack, and soon I'll put the schedule up for the next 4 weeks of what we're going to be tasting. And remember, that 6 wine pack will go with the tastings that we're doing. But as always, you're welcome to bring your own wines and join us. I'm having you here and seeing all of you. All right, so take good care. Have a healthy week. Please contact me with any questions. And cheers to everyone.
Interesting.